A thin line of smoke rises beyond a plantation boundary. The nearest fire truck knows the public road. A forestry worker knows the locked gate, the soft bridge, the water tank, and the track that ends at a steep gully. In the first few minutes, that knowledge can matter as much as the color of the truck. This is the useful idea behind New Zealand's shrinking forest firefighting crews. The country has one national fire service, but rural fire response still depends on people and machines that the state does not own. A forestry survey reported in 2026 that insurance cover for plantation forests had fallen by 40% over 3 years. Fire crews maintained by forest owners had lost between 10 and 20% of their members. At first, those figures can sound like a private business problem. A company owns trees. A company loses trees. An insurance policy pays or does not pay. Fire does not respect that neat line. Smoke crosses it. Embers cross it. Roads, homes, farms, power lines, streams, and firefighters can all sit on the other side. To understand why a private crew matters, go back to July 2017. Before then, New Zealand's urban and rural fire systems were separate. A national fire service handled the built environment, while the National Rural Fire Authority coordinated 12 rural fire districts and 26 council rural fire authorities. Some large forest organizations had deep knowledge, equipment, and formal roles inside that rural system. The Fire and Emergency New Zealand Act brought those services into one Crown organisation. The change created common leadership across cities, farms, forests, and other land. It gave the country one body with the main jobs of preventing unwanted fire and responding when fire threatens life, property, land, or the environment. Unifying command did not place a tanker beside every forest. It did not teach every national responder the location of every private water point. Nor did it turn every bulldozer, pump, four-wheel drive vehicle, and trained forestry worker into public property. That is why the relationship continued after the law changed. Forest owners prepare response information, manage fuel and access, train people, and keep equipment. Fire and emergency brings legal authority, national coordination, incident management, and the ability to move help across districts. At a large fire, the two kinds of capacity are most useful when they connect. The scale is easy to miss from a city street. New Zealand had about 1.82 million hectares of planted production forest in April 2025. The average standing age was almost 19 years. A typical radiata pine crop may be harvested at about 28 years, so the green hillside is also years of stored work. Planting, pruning, thinning, roads, and finance have been accumulating long before the logs earn income. Fire can remove that value in an afternoon, then leave years of cleanup and regrowth. Insurance and firefighting solve different parts of this problem. Insurance moves some financial loss away from the owner after a disaster. It can help with damaged trees, replanting, or other covered costs, depending on the policy. It does not open a gate, find a hidden water source, or stop an ember. Operational capability acts before and during the fire. It includes trained crews, pumps, water tanks, heavy machinery, communications, prevention work, and plans that show how to reach the land safely. A 2025 industry study covered 77% of the country's plantation forest estate. It estimated that forest owners spent an average of $8.1 million a year on fire protection. The number of small slip-on firefighting units in the survey more than doubled, from 12 in 2022 to 28 in 2025. These are water tanks and pumps fitted to utility vehicles or trucks, small enough to move quickly on forest roads. The survey also found that the most damaging fires recorded by owners often began outside the forest, in grass or scrub. That detail turns the boundary around. A plantation can threaten its neighbor when it burns. It can also receive a fire that began on somebody else's land. Prevention is therefore a shared network problem. One careless spark can demand crews and equipment from people who had no part in starting it. New Zealand's fire weather is not changing in one simple direction everywhere. Between 1997 and 2019, very high or extreme fire danger days increased at 12 of 28 measured sites. They decreased at 8 and showed no clear trend at the rest. The longer view is less comfortable. Warmer conditions are expected to bring longer fire seasons and more extreme fire weather days in many regions. The risk will vary by place, rainfall, wind, humidity, and the fuel on the ground. Local knowledge becomes more valuable, not less, when the national pattern is uneven. Now return to the two falling numbers. Less insurance means more forest value stays directly exposed on an owner's balance sheet. Fewer specialist crew members mean less experiences standing near the forest when smoke first appears. The two losses are different, but together they show a system with less room for a bad day. This does not mean every forest company must become its own fire service. New Zealand created one national organisation for a reason. Fires need common command, clear safety rules, and the power to bring resources from many places. It also does not mean the public should carry every private loss. Owners remain responsible for reducing risk on their land and planning for the investment they chose to make. The durable lesson sits between those positions. National coordination and local capability are not rivals. One decides how the response joins together. The other knows what is waiting behind the gate. For a small forest or rural property, a fire response schedule can record access points, hazards, water supplies, neighbors, and contact details. It can then be shared with the nearest fire and emergency office. If this could help someone who looks after rural land, share the story with them before summer. The line of smoke may begin on either side of a fence. The fastest safe path towards it may exist only in a worker's memory.